Hello, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to another Kaiju Connections classic film review. And of course, this time we're going all the way back to 1964, and we are here to talk about none other than this really interesting kaiju or science fiction film, DOGORA. So, yes. This one I have only ever seen once before when I was really young, so to revisit this many years later, it's been quite a pleasant surprise because it was more interesting than I thought it was. But before we get cracking and talk about it, let me introduce you to my amazing guests. We have Mr. Jedi Granville from Jedi Granville Productions. We have Mr. Mark Justice. And of course, we have the Kaiju Enigma, Jake Hall. Welcome, my friends. And also welcome one of our guests, one of our viewers, Mr. Big Bad Wolf. Hello, my friend. Thanks for tuning in.
How's it going, Big Bad Wolf?
That's right.
Yes. Yes, hope you're well, my friend. But as always, we'll start this off with the same question we always ask. Can you remember your first time viewing DOGORA? And we'll start off with Jedi Granville.
Yes, I can. I do remember this very well because this was at a tail end of time of my life where I was starting to order online. And the one movie that I wanted to really see first before anything, because I ain't never heard of DOGORA until I bought this movie, was The Mysterians. I bought The Mysterians. Really wanted to see what this movie was really about. I didn't know what the Honda was, in far as this film, because this is what you call the granddaddy of, sci-fi, Japanese sci-fi, in my mind. So, and the great thing about this DVD, it had not just extras about behind the scenes and whatever, but it had other movie trailers on it, and one of them was DOGORA. And I was just like, so let me just click and see what this is about. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And then I looked, so something about me got the bug. I got bit, and it's kind of funny.
You've not been the normal ever since.
Yes, pretty much. I started buying DOGORA. I started buying Matango. I started buying Frankenstein Conquest the World. I started buying all of them because I figured like I wanted to be ingested with this stuff and just see what the craze was about. So when I did watch it, I was just like, oh wow, this is different from the other tokusatsu films I've seen before. But yeah, and that was back in 2008. Believe it or not.
Nice. Mark Justice.
I do remember the first time I saw this. I was probably somewhere 7, 8, 9 years old. I distinctly remember because it was where we were living, and we moved out when I was 10. So I was there for a couple of years. But I used to watch movies that came on Saturday afternoon, and I would go up. We had a spare TV. It was up in my parents' bedroom, so I just kind of laid on their bed and I watched this, and I was just mesmerized. It was just a small black and white TV, but I just thought it was such an unusual monster movie. That's what I called anything that was like sci-fi, because I'd never seen anything like it. It was, it wasn't Godzilla, it wasn't Gamera. It was such a unique story with the monster and the kind of the gangster genre, and it just stuck out always. And I I hadn't seen it for a long time, and I had to go back and revisit it, and like, oh, okay, I really like this movie. Yeah. So
because it's not your stereotypical kaiju movie,
right,
or tokusatsu movie, because it's a combination of science fiction, kaiju, but also, as you know, a crime caper.
Yeah, right.
It combines more than one genre into one movie, and I think that's what makes it stand out, makes it more appealing.
Right.
Yeah. But Jake Hall, can you remember your first time you seen DOGORA?
Well, kind of like with Jedi, I saw an advertisement for the Mysterians and that particular film available for DVD, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm a big Toho nut and all of that. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get them. And like him, I pretty much got them all. And when I first watched it, of course, I watched it in its original Japanese version. I think I did.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with this film. I mean, I really did find it intriguing, and I love the aspect and how they did the storytelling and all that. So yeah, that was my.
And I like the aspects of how they created the kaiju as well, which we'll get into. But me, a huge fan of this film. Like I say, I can't remember where I watched it, how I discovered it. I do know I've seen it once, but the one I seen was the American version. That was, I think, released by American International Television or Pictures or something. And it was titled, of course, DOGORA, the Space Monster.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I discovered this when, if it was on the late night television or it was one of them retro channels or if it was the sci-fi channel where before that became defunct here in the UK. But either way, I remember seeing it and was fascinated with this giant, basically space jellyfish.
Yeah.
Which is it essentially what DOGORA is. But let's get cracking and talk a little bit about the story. So DOGORA, also known as Giant Space Monster DOGORA, is a 1964 Japanese kaiju film directed by Ishiro Honda, with special effects by E.G. Tsuburaya, produced and distributed by Toho Studios. The film stars Yosuke Natsuki, Nobuo Nakamura. I'll probably butcher half these names, so I do apologize. Hiroshi Kazumi and Akiko Wakabayashi, along with the American actor Robert Dunham. The film tells the story of a huge jellyfish-like carbon-eating creature from space that attacks Japan. So I'll start this off a little bit. So the plot basically is at the beginning of the movie, which I love the opening with the big Toho scope logo.
Kind of like how it's screen.
Yeah.
Yes. Hits the screen, and then after that hits the screen, the next thing you see is just this side view of a camera angling towards the Earth. And you just see like these satellites, you see all these people like watching the skies in outer space, when suddenly the locals, like one of the local satellites above Japan in outer space, is suddenly attacked and is suddenly sucked up and destroyed by some mysterious entity, which we don't have a clue what it is. At the same time that is going on, down on Earth in Japan, you have these diamond bank robbers. Yes. And you have this scene where you see outside of the bank and you see this beautiful lady who's sitting outside the bank she is stunning. She's a stunning lady.
Yes.
And she's basically the decoy. She's basically distracting the police or distracting anybody from anything suspicious going on from inside of the bank. This is this lovely lady right here. And basically, as the robbers are inside this bank, which are trying to, take all the diamonds or whatever inside the bank, this mysterious event happens where suddenly the bank is also attacked by some unforeseen entity that clings onto the giant safe door, the vault door, and suddenly the robbers are lifted up out the air and they kind of suctioned out of the bank and dropped on the floor. And then you finally see like this blue kind of flashy blob thing on the side of the vault door.
And
can I say something? But can I say something about that scene when they're lifted? I don't know why. Maybe it's just me, but it's you could tell that it was there. These actors were filming on a blue screen and everything, the camera moving and everything. But it looks more like they're doing the funky chicken when they're because I see that one guy who's in the white, he's like kind of like, I'm like, I can't take this too seriously because it's like y'all moving like I say it could be a movie. It's like y'all look like you're dancing like in a weird way here, So it's just
and before that happens, and the police officers walk away from the girl, they see the guy who's floating and just like, and then just falls down. I just couldn't help but laugh about that.
I love that.
And it's practical effect. He's floating, and you could he's always on wires. I love that about the practical effects. We're just going to have him really float through space. I love that.
The thing is, so even though this was made in 1961, if you look at some green screen later on, like in Down the Years, it's horrendous. It's terrible. Especially like the Asylum movies. Like you can clearly tell that they literally just, put onto this, like you can see that they've literally been just photoshopped onto this screen when a dinosaur's chasing away, even though this is like back in the day, the green screen or blue screen. And yes, it is. It still feels more organic because of the background, like the buildings or the street corners. When you see him singing, like floating in the air, going around the street corner, it still feels kind of genuine and like has its, it felt true to its time. Where the modern like green screen sub of it just feels very forced.
Yes, I think that's what I was thinking about when I watched this film, especially when the first time I watched it. It's like the effects in here, you can tell, that kind of dated, but at the same time, the technology that they use to make whatever they're doing, whether it be miniature or the DOGORA creature, I felt the effects in here were pretty damn good. They were done very well. Super Rod and his crew really brought this film's effects to life, and I can't. Like I say, I can't have no arguments. But like I say, that with the one with the guy with the floating, the funky chicken moment, you can tell. But the rest of it is like pretty.
In some films today, or even some people who like to do, like photography, like fantasy photography, they use some of the techniques that they used in this film to do it. So, for example, I've seen the photography of a woman who was in all gothic clothing, like a witch, and she had like a magic wand in her hand, and she's pointing the magic wand up into the air, and like this long blue line of smoke's coming from her wand. Where I actually seen the making of how they did that photo, and they used a fish tank, and they used some black oil and poured it in, and you just see the oil slowly dripping down the water. And then they just photoshopped that onto the photo of this woman, so it looked like the oil was coming from her wand. And that is something that they use in this movie, alongside some okay animation.
Yes, there. We'll get to it. It's some questionable animation, but you like I said again, the techniques that they had to use, because if it was CG, it'd be probably flawed, but you got to use what you had available.
Yes. So what happens next is a police investigator called Komai, I think he's called. Inspector Komai is then put onto the case, and he is played by Yosuke Natsukai. And Komai is the investigating these mystery international diamond robberies, which puts him on the case of these diamond robbers in Japan. But at the same time as he's chasing them, he gets wind of this, I guess, American. And the American, I believe, is called Mark Jackson, who was played by Robert Dunham. And so as he's investigating all of this going around, obviously he starts looking into the background of this Mark. I was going to say Mark Justice, but he's on the screen.
Yeah, that's right. Mark Justice.
DOGORA was my first movie. Yes.
And look, we did a very well, very fine job.
I can rock a hat.
Yes.
So Mark Jackson is the character's name.
Yes.
So he starts investigating these bank, which leads him to then going over because he wants to know about crystals. He wants to know what's real, what's not real crystal, what's real carbon crystals. So then, of course, he then finds out that he's kind of got like a hint that this Mark Jackson is now going to be going over to some doctor's house, this specialist, and I believe what he specializes in is crystallography.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he heads over to Dr. Monakata's house. So Dr. Monakata is a crystallography, and it specializes in the studying of diamonds. So there's this scene where obviously Inspector Komai goes over to this doctor's house, and he's at the window, and he knocks on the window, and he says to him, "I'm here because I believe you have a visitor, or somebody's here, and potentially harm could come your way." So he lets him into the house, and then suddenly realizes the diamonds that the doctor was studying, which were on this little plate next to his desk, has now suddenly disappeared. And this is where you're first introduced to Mark Jackson, who then tricks them and is able to escape, but then is suddenly also then taken by the Diamond Gang.
Yeah. Interesting. What's interesting about this, that the pacing of this film is pretty good. Because you're introduced to certain characters. You're like, okay, they're just random characters. But like, no, you're introduced to them very well, not forced, and it's like it leads to one thing to another, and I was like, that's good storytelling right there, which I like. And I was going to say,
it's a relatively short movie.
That's right. This movie is not even 90 minutes long.
Yeah, 83 minutes, I think, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but the thing is, there is something that Mark doesn't know. Does not know that the diamonds he has taken are artificial. They're not real diamonds. And so when the Diamond Gang kidnap him, because they just think, oh, they must be able to sniff diamonds out, they kidnap him, and they assume that these diamonds aren't real, or real. They turn out they're not real.
Yes.
And then this leads him getting involved with the Diamond Gang, and then there's like a mystery point of who is Mark Jackson.
The leader of the Seatopians. Obviously.
Exactly.
So, yes, it turns out that he isn't a villain. He isn't like a secret, gangster or a secret kind of, espionage person or another thief. He actually works for the World Diamond Insurance Association, which is crazy to think that this guy's going around the world looking for diamonds.
And he just happened to stumble into Japan to find these particular diamonds again. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the next part, so the plot's thickening with the diamond, so they've taken it off the sci-fi element and now taking you down another path of this basically gangster kind of diamond hunt plot. But then it picks up the sci-fi not long after that, because the next part of the plot is where you see mystery events transpiring around Japan. You see coal being sucked up. You see like factory facilities being destroyed. You start to see all of this chaos go around Japan, and the mystery is now starting to pick back up, where there is some sort of mysterious invisible entity that's now causing real destruction to the infrastructure of Japan.
And don't forget that earlier when we was introduced to I'm thinking his name. I can't remember his name.
Kumai.
No, not Kumai, but we're introduced to him with this other person that's the doctor's assistant, and she tells about playing in a coal mine, being a kid and everything when she was growing up. But we're introduced to her, her brother, which we saw earlier. Yes, his who's a scientist, and he just randomly comes out of nowhere, and she said, Nisa, that's brother in Japanese, and he's like, immediately, like I said, this is how I love how, especially Honda does as well, introduce characters, show their relationships just like that. And
for a small, like you said, for the time frame of this movie that, like I say, less than 90 minutes, it's got quite an interesting plot. So you then got the mystery of this entity. You've got the dime smuggler caper with Mark Justice, the police, inspector, trying to solve that. Now you're introduced to this doctor, his daughter, his assistant, and her brother. What the doctor's a crystallologist, and the brother's a scientist, and then they're talking about you're being in the coal mines of the younger, and that's adding to the mystery of the plot. What's this got to do with this mystery entity in outer space, or what is it got to do with this, entity that's now causing all this destruction? And it makes you want to stick around to figure out where it's going to go and how it's going to end. And that's what I think was great about Ishiro Honda when it came to this particular film. And I think that's why this is one of his secret hidden gems.
Quote unquote.
Because it's got so much going for it in terms of plot, where some of his later films, when it was just the Godzilla ones, it was basically trying to find a plot to get the monsters to meet up and fight. A bit like the Monsterverse. Which I don't necessarily was down to him, it was down to interference, I think, from Toho.
It was. But can I say, though, that moment where they're at the coal mine and everything, you could tell that's an overcast right there. You could tell there's, it's more of a summertime overcast, but I love how it's shot there, where you see the coal mine in the background and, vehicles and everything and how they're interacting with one another. I just love how that's shot in that moment, right? I'm going to put that out.
Yeah. So would you like to continue the plot, Mr. Jedi Granville?
I can do that, because this is where, as you say, the plot thickens, as someone would say.
And we like it thick.
Okay. Well, anyway, as we go along, and like say, the cop, the assistant, and the scientist, they experience these unusual things where the coal is going up into the air, everything. Cut back to the cartographer, the crystallographer, in his house, in his home, and we see the scientist, the radio scientist, asking him about, because he's showing these pictures about what was happening with the satellites that got sucked up by this particular entity or whatever, So, and the thing about it is the cop is there too, he's talking to him and everything. But while this is going on, we're introduced to another character, which is I think Jun DeCoca, I'm thinking, the head of the Diamond police organization. He calls him saying, like, what are you doing being at this man's house? I got this other cop following Mark Jackson where he's around, and this is so clever, because it's funny how the guy who's following him thinks Mark doesn't know he's being followed, because there's a moment where they go into the hotel where Mark is staying, and Mark, you see Mark in the background, the guy's on the phone. Mark is looking at someone, but then he just looks at the guy, and it's like, come on, dude, you think I don't see you? I see you like a bad habit, So he calls his detective and tells him, like, hey, I got Mark, he's here. You might want to try to.
Well, he just to see him tricked, isn't he? Because Mark tricked them, because he hid his shoes underneath the curtain in the house. So he does the same thing to Mark in the hotel room.
And what comes next is, it's funny, like, and this is something, subplot we forgot to mention, that the diamond hustlers, got information about some more diamonds being transferred somewhere else, and it's in a truck, and it's going to be delivered around, say, late evening, whatever you want to call it, depends on your point of view of it. So Mark is trying to pretty much catch these guys before they try to hijack the diamond. So, and Kasumi is trying to say, I'm going to make sure to stick to you like glue. And it's cat and mouse with these two. It's like, it's good chemistry between Mark and Kasumi, because it's pretty much Mark is trying to get rid of Kasumi, but he grabs a gun that's actually not a gun. It's like, say, give me that because you're not supposed to have that. You're gaijin. You're not supposed to have guns outside inside of Japan. Only the people who are there. So he gives him the gun. He starts to say, and then he said, "Come with me to the station." Blah blah blah. He says, "Okay." He leaves. Kazumi shoots the gun, and then these ribbons start popping out and everything. He's like, "Hey, you take care. I'll see you later." And he's like, he locks him back. So he's heading to the destination where the diamond hustlers are pretty much going to hijack this diamond truck. And it's kind of funny because it's like he's giving him the slip so bad. It's like, dude, and the head detective tells him, like, dude, how is that you acting like a rookie? This guy is making you look like a fool right now,
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, getting back to the diamond hustler event, it's the diamonds are being traveled. They're being making way to whatever safe location, and the guy and the woman is there with them. And I got to say, this is a moment where you have to really look really good because if you miss it, you don't see it. She distracts the drivers in the truck, and she's laying in the road. She's just laying there. Just like dead or anything like that. And it's like and I love how they do this. They do it in one take where it's like it's coming around the corner, and you just slightly see something. Then it's like, oh, she's lying in the road. So that gets them to stop because they go out and say, it's like, I don't know when I want to go out here and look at it. Say, and one of the guys tells the other guy, says like, I don't know what happened to it, but she looks very attractive. It's like, wow, you notice that she's a dame. She's beautiful. So the other ones have a blowtorch to cut through the back of the truck, and Mark is coming up on their ass, about to overtake them. So they manage to get the door open on the back of the truck, but they hold the guys hostage for a second, but then they run away when Mark arrives, and they say, well, we have to distract this moment real quick. Here comes another truck. Was the coal truck. Yeah. They try to ram that coal truck at Mark, but surprise, surprise, the truck just levitates right off the ground. It's like, what the yeah, I was like, what the fuck, And if you really look, you could tell, like I say, it's effects that they have to use. It's filmed backwards because you see little parts of coal that's on the ground, that gets lifted up. It's a fun effect. So it's lifted up, and we just know that there's something mysterious lifting this thing up, and Mark's running away. And I love how the miniatures are done here because you have this truck that was driven by the diamond carriers, and the coal truck just lands on that, and you actually see in the background of that when it crashes on that truck the figures of the diamond hustlers in their vehicle in the background. I just love how they do that kind of detail like that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the framing is really nice in this movie. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yes. Some of the shots are really beautifully framed.
That's why I can't give enough to Ishiro. I'm not Ishiro Honda. Both Ishiro Honda, but Subaraya for doing the effects in here because it's, as Mark said, it's framed very well. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the shot that you had showed earlier, Kevin, where the people are looking out of the apartment and can see the smokestacks of the factory in the background. That's one of my favorite shots because you have such a depth of field. I mean, it's a screen, it's effects in the back, but because you have people in the foreground, you've got buildings, you got a set, and then way behind that, it does create that depth of illusion of depth and reality. So I just love this movie because of shots like this.
Yes. And then obviously after that, this is where we then get more mystery and the finally reveal of who Ghidorah is, because eventually Ghidorah begins to attack Japan, and it must be like a nighttime scene because you just see like this cloudness, like a giant cloud.
Yes.
And
this is good. too.
Yeah, they see this giant cloud, and then you just see like these little sparkles, and then eventually this giant green mass turns up, and it's like, this is what DOGORA looks like in the film. This giant creature that's so unique and different, floating around Japan, basically sucking up all the carbon, and this is where the doctor then puts 2 and 2 that this thing is basically eating the carbon for food so it can grow and then probably reproduce, which, as we know, potentially does happen. But then the scenes in this where it's a mixture of animation and the fish tank effect, I call it. So this is like the animation, like part of the animation. It's where he wraps his tentacle around the bridge and pulls the bridge apart. But it would show you that in animation, and then what would happen after that in it would show you like the miniature being pulled apart, which was fun. And then you had scenes of like DOGORA flying away around the city, just destroying everything in its path.
Yeah, the movement is so good. It's so creepy in those shots. I mean, the animation not so much. It looks like a Casper or Harvey cartoon, from the 40s.
Right.
But those other shots make up for it, I think. The creepiness.
But I'm going to show you this. So this is how they made DOGORA.
Yes, I've seen this.
Oh, I've never seen this.
Oh, you never see? Oh, dude, I love.
No,
so
this is fantastic.
They basically filmed this like obviously would have been like a small puppet in the water floating around, and behind it they have that whiteboard. They would then superimpose what you're seeing on the screen onto the film footage.
Yeah.
So that's how they made, and then obviously he's on a wire, so that shot that you're seeing where he basically floats away.
So they must have had some of the tentacles on wires and some were more floating freely.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
because you get that movement.
For example, this one, he's on a wire in the water, in the fish tank, and then they pull the wire and it obviously drags the puppet along to where it looks like he's floating into space, in the sky. And that's how they were able to do the special effects. And some of them effects I have seen still be used today. So it just shows you everything that was created isn't dead. Like Peter Jackson, for one, is phenomenal for what he was able to do with Lord of the Rings. Like he used every kind of technique you can think of: miniatures, giant sculpts, mache sets. He used obviously all practical effects for a majority of the movie, and that's how you can see the massive difference between what they did with the Lord of the Rings and what they did with the Hobbit trilogy. There was a massive change with more use of CGI in the Hobbit trilogy over than what they did with the original, because it was all cost effective. But Christopher Nolan this year with the Odyssey, he practically, it's 90% practical effects and 10% CGI in that movie, which was a phenomenal task to ask. But it was a task, I think, that paid off.
But it's just but look, all Nolan is doing old-fashioned filmmaking that's been done since the beginning of filmmaking. And I'm pretty sure me and Justice have seen so many films that have had this colossal array of effects being done that's in camera, and it's like nowadays it's being taken for granted because they don't realize. I mean, some of these newer filmmakers don't realize like that's how they did this stuff back then. This is how you got the effective costs of production. I mean, you put in this amount of people and you get those effects.
Yes. J. Cole, would you like to continue our story?
Sure. So after we see the arrival of DOGORA, and after he destroys the bridge, you hear they use this special like high depth sound system, and I thought it was funny. While the doctor and a former military buddy of his, as they were in the all of a sudden they hear this.
Yeah.
They're like, oh,
It's like,
oh. And it's like, what the hell was that?
Mhm.
And he's like, it was a bird, sir. It flew by, or a flock of birds flew by, sir. Sorry about that, sir. So, but then the doctor's like, wait a minute, listen. And all of a sudden you hear this. And he's like, oh, it's a swarm of insects, which you come to find out are bees. And somehow,
Wasps.
oh, was it
Oh,
wasps?
wasp. Oh, it was wasps.
Well, this time, the first batch was bees, but then again, the next one was probably wasp. But I mean, it might have been wasp too. I'm not sure. But.
Anyway, because that. So they hear it, and as the swarm goes into the stuff where DOGORA is, all of a sudden you see these colorful rocks just start falling down into the water, into the lake.
Yo.
Thank you. Yes.
Possibly so. Yes.
Me a misfit? Never. Anyway,
Yeah.
so they're trying to figure out what caused DOGORA to be so colorful and start falling off.
Mhm.
Well, the detective dude goes into Mark Jackson's hotel room because he's on the 4th floor, and the doctor and his assistant and everybody's on the 3rd floor, which also the bank robbers the diamond robbers are there as well, because the doctor was on a train along with Mark Jackson, and they had a little chat, and then Mark Jackson ends up meeting with the damsel in distress, the
Mhm.
mock-up, and
Don't choke, man.
I was gonna say, don't.
It's all the vocal effects today. The new effects. That's awesome.
It was nice.
so she's thinking about double crossing her gang,
Mhm.
and she's wanting the diamonds because she think Mark Jackson has the real diamonds, and he doesn't. Which back when they got the bags of they thought were diamonds from that truck, it turned out to be candy, and the Doctor Who guys just like just start, and then the head honcho, the boss, is like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "I'm standing still, sir." So
Mate, this gang sucks. I've no luck. I've never seen
they're not the most intimidating, I mean, except for the lead guy. But it's like
they're meant to be like this group of international diamond smugglers or hunters, and they've screwed up like 3 times already.
yeah.
so they end up, the diamond robbers end up going to Mark Jackson's room, and they're trying to get him to confess about the diamonds and stuff. Well, they end up tying him up, and also the detective, because he tries to help Mark out. Well, he ends up getting tied up, and then they set off these little tiny dynamite explosive things. Well, they end up getting released, and they throw them away, which they throw them out the window, both of them, and you just this.
Yeah, that was a very powerful explosion for such a.
Yeah, it's like, oh look, we're gonna throw it out the window. It's gonna cause something big. Let's duck behind the couch.
Yeah.
And as soon as they just, and it's just a puff of smoke. It's like, great effects, guys.
But it'll kill you, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, true. Smoking will kill you.
It will.
And but just to add on to what Jake is saying, while all this is going on, we find out that, of course, it was wasps. I mean, it might have been bees, but this is a swarm of wasps that caused DOGORA to change into colorful rocks. colorful rocks and everything.
Well,
So
it's like it's something to do. So what I've read here is the wasps. It's the venom in the wasps causes the portions of DOGORA's body to crystallize and they start to drop off. So then they realize that there's something within the venom of the wasp that they potentially could then take and mass produce against DOGORA as a weapon. And I think after that, is this not where they send up into space, not into space, up into the sky? They send the jets, and they send them barrels, and the barrels and the jets start to attack Ghidorah, who's now, I think the main larger Ghidorah was destroyed, but then all these smaller versions of Ghidorah, the body of the deceased larger ones, then suddenly start to emerge. But there's not just a handful of them; there's like thousands of them. Now, if they then turn into a larger DOGORA and start to suck up the carbon like the first original large one did, there's going to be thousands of these DOGORAs of mass sizes just taking over the earth and basically destroying everything in the path.
Exactly. And this is what you call a earth level event, kind of extinction event. So
because eventually we're going to be the carbon.
That exactly. We're going to get sucked up.
That's right.
But I should mention too, this is we've heard this particular cue so many times during this time when they mass produce this particular venom as a weapon. You hear this score that Akira Ikefube does, where it's like working to manifest something and whatever they think. It's like you hear that in many of the movies that he scored for Honda, and it's like this moment here is like it works really well because it's like they got all these barrels, ready to set up to be sent out and pretty much destroy these DOGORAs.
It's basically like his go-to theme for like dramatic or tense, scenes of attention.
Yes, but it works though. I love that. That's what I love. I love that score so much.
It kind of mimics the emotion that's going on in that scene. Like you had mentioned, the intensity. It's a very frenetic kind of score. Mm-hmm. So it kind of mimics the intense emotions of what's going on. Yeah,
definitely. So after that, the military decide to mass produce this compound that they've created from the wasps, and this is where you see them suddenly attacking the mini DOGORAs, and this is where the female crystal smuggler or robber has turned her back on the gang, and she escapes, and they then chase after her, but then the police or the investigator and Mark is after them as well, and the climax is there at the beach.
Yeah.
And she's trying to run down the cliffside and then make her way onto the beach and then somehow escape down the beach. But she's recaptured by them, by the diamond smugglers, who have, of course, they believe she's got these diamonds, and at the same time, you see the police turn up with and Mark turns up. And they basically chase after them, and there's like a mini shootout at the same time because the military is attacking the DOGORAs in the air. You suddenly see these little baby like DOGORAs crystallizing and dropping like meteorites against the ground. Now, when they were dropping to the ground, I liked how they would show like the little see-through jellyfish version, then they became these hard rocks, but as they hit the ground, there were some scenes where there was one particular scene when it hit the ground, it was next to a train track.
Yes.
And it was like a tiny line of a train, and this giant brick smashes, so it was showing you the sheer size of how even the smaller ones were compared to the larger one. And then eventually, as they go down the beach, the the bank robber, the crystal robbers are halfway through and they're about to chase them, and suddenly out of the sky
Dude,
drops a
I love
baby DOGORA and just squashes them flat.
Oh shit! Ah!
Dude, I mean, it's fun because when you see when they're running and one of them falls down, it's like, oh, you about to get squashed, and it's like it's so funny because it's like here it comes, it's like bam, it's like pancaked, love it.
Mm. Oh, and I forgot that the female diamond stealer, she was actually shot by the guy.
Yeah,
They basically just blew her away and kill her because of her actions of trying to.
I have to say that's kind of really cold-hearted, cold-blooded, I mean, because I'm pretty sure all of us know Mr. Honda's, to what anything, even he knows, like I say, sometimes you have to show the brutality of some things, and showing her getting pretty much shot in the back because she was double-crossing them. It's like, well, hey, you do like what you get,
And how she falls too. How she falls like.
Yes, yeah.
And then you see her laying on the sand, and she's trying to reach for the diamonds, but then.
But I have to say that hers is not as dramatic as Miyahama's in King Kong Escapes when she gets shot twice, where she got It's like, wow, that's
how'd that go?
That's so dramatic. I'm like, wow.
I would just like to thank everybody for this Academy Award.
I mean, it's so dramatic. How can you die? It's like it's so over the top. It's like,
well, you'll get my vote if you ever get nominated.
Okay, then.
It ends basically where the doctor is boarding a plane, where Mark's boarding a plane, and then him and the inspector still have like this friendly rivalry. Were the diamonds fake or were they real? They have, it's still unknown. And then the doctor and his assistant, the assistant brings the doctor to the plane because they're at the airport, and he's going to go to talk to the world nations about his discoveries, and he's very excited because now his name's kind of going to be in the history books as somebody who helped save the world. And the last shot is the plane taken off, which was a unique ending because normally they would show you a sunset, or they would leave it with a question mark: is DOGORA really dead? But it seemed very final in this movie that DOGORA is dead. So he has a question at the end of this movie. Would you have wanted to see a sequel with multiple giant DOGORAs, or were you happy that this was a one and done movie?
Well, me personally, I wouldn't mind, but knowing how things work and how budgetary and how studio heads work, I'm kind of glad it was a one-off. If they would decide to do a remake of it years later, I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Mm-hmm. I think the story alone, and the science behind the story, and the mystery in the creature, and then the added gangster element, this feels like this would be a perfect modern movie to make.
Yeah.
For modern science fiction, if done right.
Well, the Human Vapor was remade,
Yeah.
So I think it'd be done really well today. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And the thing is, because of how far technology's gone, we've now gotten, of course, the MonsterVerse has just brought Godzilla to a new level. And we'll now have a television show, Legacy of Monsters. It'll be interesting to see with how Japanese is, CGI has gone, especially with the success of -1. Would there be one day that they will then venture down the lane, which I imagine it's going to be inevitable, that Toho will then eventually remake a classic kaiju film into a mini television series? in DOGORA, I definitely feel could be one of those that they would explore.
Well, I do know I mentioned something about like the H-Man or even the Telegraphian, you know. I mean, it's possible because if they do, because I haven't watched the new series of the Human Vapor yet, but from what I said before about like especially like the H-Man, it could happen. You know, it has potential to do that because it's like this film and like H-Man and like Human Vapor, they all have interconnecting storylines going on, you know, and it's done in a very compact way. But if they were to do a remake, I mean, or a series of it, it's like I can see that.
So, go around the room. Jedi, got your overall thoughts on DOGORA and your ratings out of 1 to 10.
Well, I can honestly say that this is probably one of the most unique sci-fi films of the time, because I think this is one of those films that was so ahead of its time. I think this is the reason why no one gives it a lot of clout as they should, because it deserves that clout. It really does. It's ahead of its time, and it does a brilliant job of bringing something unique to the screen. And for the people who made it, you know, I say very kudos on them, because it's like you can't just have a giant mutated dinosaur walking around and that's be your, you know, go-to thing for telling a story. It's like try something different, you know, try something unique that's people have never seen, and this is one of those particular films. So for me, this particular film, I would definitely give it a 7.5. I give it a 7.
Nice.
Yes,
that's fair. Mark Justice.
Mark Jackson. Oh, yes, Justice.
In case you forgot.
That's right. I'll be either. I really like this movie, and every time I watch it, I like it a little bit more. And I watched it again today to kind of refreshen it. But because I knew you guys were going to do an amazing summary. I love listening to your summaries because it's like, oh yeah, like every scene plays out. Like, yeah, I'm rewatching it in my head. So brilliant, guys. No, I just really like the combination of the genres, the gangster genre, the kaiju genre. I love that there's an actual story. I mean, beside the monster, like the monster is almost secondary to the story about the heists and the diamonds and the gangs and the, you know, the police procedural. Then we got that too. So we have all these things going on. And then it looks wonderful. Other than the little goofy animation, it just, the shots are framed beautifully. And so
well edited.
Yeah. I for such a short movie, 83 minutes, it really packs a lot. So I would give it I give it 8.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jake Hall.
I really did enjoy this film. It was a pleasant surprise. The effects, you know, minus the little technical difficulties with the animation, the cinematography, you know, everything, the storytelling. I love the blend between sci-fi and gangster, all blended into one. I love the design of the creature. It was definitely a unique design. For me, I'm kind of like with Mark. I give it an 8.5.
Oh, excellent. Like for me personally, like I say, I haven't seen this film since I was a kid, so I had to hunt it down, and I managed to find it online to watch. So I watched once again the American dubbed version, and I just love it. I just think for me, I felt like it was the first time I watched this movie, because when you're a kid, you remember certain things, but you don't take it all in.
Yeah.
This time I had a bigger appreciation for it as an adult watching it. Like you said, Mark, and like everyone said, I loved how it was 3 movies in one. It wasn't just a kaiju movie with just like a monster stomping around and destroying a city. It was a science fiction movie. It used real science. It used like used elements of animals with the wasps and bees. It was a crime caper. It was it was like a natural disaster movie as well, with the destruction of the city, with the coal mines and all that. It had so much going for it, and then you had these unique characters, the police investigator. You had the the American, then you had the Diamond Gangsters, then you had the Doctor and his assistant, and it just all come together, and it was great how he was able, how Honda was able to put this together in such a short time and connect the dots of such an amazing plot in a smaller film. And it's like I see the other movies in his catalogue later down the line where the plots aren't as fun. It's more or less about getting Godzilla to fight whatever the next monster is and finding a way to do it as soon as possible. And there's some very hollow films that just, switch your brains off and watch it and have a good time. Where this is a good movie, but it's got so much to it. So I do think it's one of his best undiscovered movies or underappreciated movies. So for that, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
Nice.
So I'm going to, and if I could get this on Blu-ray, I would. And what I would actually like Toho to do, and if anyone at Toho is listening, because obviously you give, I know in Japan they've had a number of their very own releases of like box sets of Millennium, Showa, and obviously Heisei era box set, and then you've had the Criterion. I would suggest what Toho should do. They should do a non-Godzilla Toho exclusive monster collection box set with all the other monsters films that aren't Godzilla. Varan, The War of the Gargantuans, DOGORA, Frankenstein Conquers the World, Rodan, Mothra. Have a box set with all these other kaiju movies that were produced from Toho. I think Space in Amoeba as well was produced by Toho. So have a box set with all of these other monster movies on Blu-ray 4K and give the people what they want.
That would be awesome. Those would be the sets I'd be willing to buy.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like nope. Yeah, they're beautiful. And this movie Dogora is kind of represents Toho's Showa era to me. Like this is like a really quintessential Showa look and feel.
Yes.
And so that's why I love growing up with these movies. Like we all kind of grew up watching these movies. It feels like I'm a kid again. I just love the look of the film, the look of the sets, the lighting. I mean, everything about it is just makes me very happy. So great.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like when I can watch any Toho Godzilla film and feel like I'm back in my living room as a kid with a bucket of popcorn with my mum on the settee, watching me watch Godzilla and her just knitting a jumper because she used to knit when I was younger. Not as much now, but she did when I was younger. But before we wrap things up, I'm going to let everybody know what is coming to the entertainment headquarters for the rest of the month of August and what is coming in both October and September. So first and foremost, next weekend, I'm really looking forward to this. We have hopefully a host of amazing guests. We are going to be doing the Dollar Trilogy.
Oh, nice.
So yes, it's going to be me and DJ Anubis is definitely doing this. Anybody here is more than welcome to join us for that one. And
I might join in that one. I like that trilogy.
Yeah. So I think it's next Saturday that we're doing that. The same time, it'll be 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
And also, me and Jake were last Sunday meant to do the Human Vapor review, but I had some personal problems, so I had to cancel. And I know Jedi is going to start watching it, so he's going to now be joining us on that review.
Yes.
So at some point later this month, we are going to be doing the Human Vapor, and we're also going to do a quick comparison to the original movie. And in September, I'm doing an entire month dedicated to samurai movies because we're bringing back the second annual month of the samurai, and we're going to be reviewing the second half of the Akira Kurosawa samurai movies.
Nice.
So that's coming in September, and the whole month of October is going to be a theme called Nightmares and Mayhem. and it's going to be dedicated to Friday the 13th in the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
Yes. But you're probably wondering when we're going to get back to talk about the kaijus. Well, Kaiju Connections will be put on hold for them 2 months because we're going to be very busy dealing with all the samurais and the nightmares and all that. So in November, we're going to start with a bang, and we're going to be starting doing this.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, just count me in as a regular for this series.
Yes.
So I'll be here.
Yes, we are going to be doing Godzilla 1954, will be the first film from the Showa era of the Godzilla Toho series in November. So, see us all there in November.
Oh.
That's going to be awesome.
And Mark, if you want to be involved in any of the streams that I do, I'll keep sending you little posts and Messenger and letting you know what's coming up.
Yeah, I can't do the one
any...
this Saturday, but yes, count me in for all of the show era. I'll be there.
Yeah. But Mr. Jedi Granville, what is coming up on Jedi Granville Productions?
Well, as I told many people already, this month is still a blank slate because of work, and work will always be something I have to deal with. But other than that, the next following month, I'm going to get back on the horse. Wow, that's kind of a segue because I'm going to be dealing with.
Just keep dropping them in while that's fine.
No, the selling thing is I'm going to start the month off in the beginning doing a special Jedi Granville special presentation, which is a surprise that I'm not going to mention here, but you have to watch it when it comes up. I do know I got some things labeled out, but it's going to be kind of spread out through September and October. But I do know by the tail end of September, I'll be doing the Day the Earth Stood Still, podcast, which I feel another classic, very, very well made film that I think not a lot of people talk about. And it looks like Jake might just want to get up on that. So that, hey, you definitely
I'll be joining you on that one. Yes.
It's funny that you mentioned that movie because I was sitting in the house, I don't know, was it last Saturday or Friday? And when you're just flicking through the television, seeing if there's anything out. But we have a channel called Action TV. It's like a British television, and they show all old school kind of movie. And the remake with Keanu Reeves was on, and I watched it.
Yes.
And I hadn't seen that for ages, so it was quite unique viewing watching that after a long period of time.
Because it is unique. I'm not gonna
bash it.
Bash it too much, because believe it or not, it is selectively different than the 51 version. It has its own unique way of doing things, but it's the modern day filmmaking, so you gotta look at it that way. But but no, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty decent for what it is. And as far as everything else, I will doing a revisit of Matango. That'll probably be like in the tail end of the beginning of October, most likely. I feel it will. And I will say
Jake's ready for that one too.
Yes, he's ready for that one too. And I would then you're going to be ready for this one too when I'm about to drop on you. And I'm going to do a podcast which will be the top 10 favorite of Ishiro Honda films that he's directed. And I feel like whoever wants to join on that, is
it going to be outside of Godzilla, or you including
it has to, that's what I was going to say. Now, this is key right here. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It could, like I say, a few, not all, a few of the Godzilla, but most likely it's going to be mostly some of the non-Godzilla films that he's directed. Like I mentioned before, the H-Man, Mothra, Rodan, something like that, or even this one included in what's your favorite one, and that's what we're going to talk about. So,
that's pretty good.
But other than that, that's pretty much it. Because, like I say, I got other things, but I'm gonna leave that simmering on the back burner. So you have
cool. You've got some pretty good. And remember the idea I gave you about.
Yes, and I'm going to keep that in mind because I feel that that's a good talk. You know, I don't know about you, Jackson. I know it's Justice. I have an idea that I'm going to be brewing up where we're doing a comparison about the H-Man and the human vapor because they're dealing with body, changing kind of ordeal situation. So that'll be an interesting.
Well, it's a trilogy of films. I don't know. Like I might, if you're doing the comparison to just them two, I might do the trilogy because it's classed as a trilogy with the
Telegraphian. Yeah,
it was actually that was a trilogy. He called it his trilogy of films dealing with the human body.
Yeah.
Well, all I'll say is that you definitely, make sure that you've seen all these films. That's another thing. You just can't.
I'll make sure I see them. Yeah.
Okay. No, but that's definitely going to be for something I'm going to do.
Yeah, definitely. What's coming up with you, Mark Justice?
Well, on Heavy Metal Horror, we've got a new co-host, his name is Nemo, and who's going to be doing a lot more of the horror and sci-fi aspect of it.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and in next month or so, Chop Top will be taking a little break from doing his chores, but we're going to have a lot more people coming on. I know Jedi Granville has already been on a couple episodes, and we got a bunch more that we're going to be doing. And I'll talk with you all about the ones that are coming up. But we're going to be doing our lot top 10s and fun things like that. And one that I think everyone can have fun with is called Turd in the Punch Bowl, are the worst horror movies we've ever seen. So it's just a time where we can just sit back and talk about the worst of the worst. But we have a lot of fun stuff coming up. Yeah, but we're going to be increasing our episodes.
Oh, I would love that one.
Excellent. Count yourselves all invited. So we're just going to be doing a lot more branching out and doing a lot more fun things. Still going to do our metal stuff. Still going to do horror stuff, sci-fi. But we're going to be doing a lot more content than we had been. We're going back to releasing new stuff every week. And so I'm really excited about getting to do more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, my good friend G. Cole is my co-host on Television Chronicles, and he is, like I say, he's gonna be with me talking the human vapor, and he will probably be a part of the short era reviews.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely. I'm also September and October. Me and Anubis have both done our picks for Kaiju Spotlight. Next month is Anubis's pick. We're going to be talking about Tiamat.
Oh, nice.
From the Monsterverse. And my pick, we're continuing with the Rebirth of Mothra. Mm-hmm. I did Death Ghidorah, so, and Kevin, if you want to join me and Anubis for this one, you can. My pick for October is Grand Ghidorah.
Oh yes, he's my favorite version of Ghidorah.
So if you want to join me and Anubis for that one, you can.
Yeah, so, if I'm free for that, I'd love to join that one.
Oh yeah, so that's our two picks.
I think the echo's been sorted now, Ulvin, but thanks for bringing it up. But anyway, that's what's coming to all my amazing guest channel. For everybody that's partaking in tonight's stream, thank you. We cannot do this without our amazing audience, and I cannot do this without my amazing guests. This has been the Entertainment Headquarters. This has been Kaiju Konnections. And as my good friend, Mr. Jedi Granville, always says, keep the Kaiju love alive.